verse 10, love is the fulfillment of the law. Bible scholar Warren Wiersbe states, if we love God, we will experience Him within and will express that love to others. We do not live, he says, by rules, but by relationships. A loving relationship with God that enables us to have loving relationships with others. And to love God doesn't seem to mean to just simply have good feelings about Him. True love involves the will as well as the heart. And where there is love, there will always be service and obedience and sacrifice. Jesus didn't say, I've come that you might have a philosophy to think about. He didn't say, I've come that you might have a religion to conform to. He didn't say, I've come that you might have an institution to maintain. Jesus said, I have come that you might have life and have it to the fullest. Another translation says, I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. There's a big difference between having a life of abundance and having abundant life. I know many people that live in abundance. All of us that live in the Western Hemisphere live in abundance compared to the rest of the world, so it's all relative. But Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it to the fullest. And that's what we want to try to go after this morning. Several months back, I got a call from my dad. He'd apparently gone on a date last December. He's 80. I did my mom's funeral 2.5 years ago, and he announced to me that he was getting married. 80! He's 80! And I said, why? And he said, well, because I'm in love. I said, okay. And we'd like you to do the wedding. It was weird. It was just weird. I just want to get that out. It was just weird. And so a few months ago, it was great. It was awesome, and I'm happy for them. It was just weird. So a couple of months ago, I woke up early one morning, and I went to Atlanta Bread Company and was there before anybody got there. Got my roll and got my coffee, and I had this Bible, and this is my journal, and I went to a back corner, and I just thought, I just got to come up with a message. I was just praying and stuff, all by myself back there for about 10 minutes, and these two guys walked in, and they sat in the booth right beside me. And I'm like, whatever. Like commercial, dude. It was like, dude, sit over there. I'm studying. I'm getting ready for this important wedding. But they were there, and I was kind of annoyed, and so I eavesdropped on their conversation. I couldn't help it. They were the one guy named Greg, fictitious name in case he's here, was just sitting. But you're going to know in a minute that it was you. Was sitting there with this guy who I thought was his counselor or a psychologist or something like that. He was talking very loud about everything going on in his life, and I couldn't concentrate. And so I opened my journal, and I just started writing down what he was saying. And I admit it. I was eavesdropping. I couldn't help it. The guy sat right beside me. He could have sat anywhere else, but they chose right there. So I believe now that it was God's way of saying, use it as an illustration in this sermon. No, just kidding. Here's what he said, and it just broke my heart. He said, I don't feel like I have anything to offer anyone anymore. These are direct quotes. I feel like a piece of garbage. I'm frail. I'm at the end of myself. I don't know what to do. I'm not useful to anyone or anything. I'm hanging on by my fingernails. I'm so broken, disoriented, and exhausted. And after listening for about a half an hour, I finally put my Bible and my journal away, and I just kind of walked around, and I said, I'm sorry, but I've been listening, and you just seem like you're in pain. Can I pray for you? And he said, thank you. And we prayed, and I could just feel like this weight was kind of lifted, and then he introduced me to his pastor. So, oops. He should have prayed for him earlier, and I wouldn't have done that. But in all seriousness, all joking aside, I do wonder how many people live in that type of wilderness for years, not knowing how to cross over to the other side of the Jordan River and experience the favor and blessing of God. It's interesting that this new generation of Israel was gathered on the plains of Moab on this side of the Jordan River. It had taken them nearly, the Bible says, 40 years to get there from their original starting point, and yet it states in Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 2 that the journey should have only taken them 11 days. There's a map up here, and you can see how they started over there in Goshen and how they went on this detour way south, and God brought them down there, and then they kind of went up. But if you'll look, Kadesh Barnea is only an 11-day journey. It's about 150 miles. What city is 150 miles from here? About? Wichita. Wichita? Okay, whatever. Just picture it. From Goshen to Kadesh Barnea is about 150 miles. The Bible says an 11-day journey. But they traveled and walked around in circles and way went down. 40 years. 40 years. And this is the tragedy of unbelief, not loving God and being obedient to His Word. It wastes time, it wastes energy, it wastes manpower, and it robs God the glory that's due His name. Someone once said, if you want to keep getting what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. And so many of us in life, we complain and we moan because we're just eating pablum all of our lives and we're just wounded and we're walking around wounded. It's because we keep on doing what we're doing and we never change doing what we're doing, so we keep on getting what we're getting. Something's got to click. Something's got to change in our heart. Perhaps the application this morning is for all of us to re-embrace the Shema, the codification of our faith. As I believe it's so eloquently penned by the psalmist. Turn to Psalm 63. This is one of my, if you got a top 10 passage, this is in my top 10. The psalmist so simply and eloquently writes down his feelings toward God and his dependence upon the Father. O God, you are my God. I shall seek thee earnestly. My soul thirsts for thee. My flesh yearns for thee in a dry and a weary land where there is no water. Sounds like Kansas, doesn't it? Thus I have beheld thee in the sanctuary to see thy power and thy glory. Because thy loving kindness is better than life, my lips will praise thee. So will I bless thee as long as I live. I will lift up my hands in thy name. My soul is satisfied as with marrow and fatness, and my mouth offers praises with joyful lips. When I remember thee on my bed, I meditate on thee in the night watches. For thou hast been my help, and in the shadow of thy wings I will sing for joy. My soul clings to thee. Thy right hand upholds me. And I was kind of in a bit of a funk on Friday morning, and a friend of mine gave me Psalm 131. Turn over there. It's real short. It's only 3 verses, but it talks about this place that we can be in with God. It's almost like a promised land, okay? Psalm 131, it's a great psalm. O Lord, my heart is not proud, nor my eyes haughty, nor do I involve myself in great matters or in things too difficult for me. Surely I have composed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child rests against his mother. My soul is like a weaned child within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forever. Do you see it there? Just that resting in the Lord, that hope in the Lord, that crossing over the Jordan and experiencing our inheritance. So how do we get there? And what's the thing that's in your life that forbids you from crossing the Jordan? What's the thing in your life that wrestles against your inner man to love God with all that you are and have? And if you'll allow me, just for a few minutes here, when you get ready for a message like this, you love God, okay, you love God, let's go home and love God, sort of thing. And it's not that simple. And, I kind of finished all of what I just shared with you by Tuesday, and then, I was saying, God, what's the application? Wednesday came, and it's like, okay, God, anytime now. Thursday came, and it's like, okay, we're 3 days away. Come on, God. And then Friday came, and it didn't happen until late in the day on Friday. And I just believe that the Spirit quietly said something to me as I began to reflect on the life of Moses and Joshua and then reading about Jesus in the New Testament. And I just want to, let me muse for a few minutes on something, because I think maybe this is the application God has for us. If you remember back in Exodus chapter 4, Moses was standing before God and stuttering and saying, not me, I can't even speak. But God said, I'm going to use you. And almost like it was a miracle, the Lord said, what's in your hand? And Moses looked down and he said, it's a staff. A staff. And it was uncommon for men in those days, and even in Jesus' time, to have a staff, because they were tending sheep. I mean, Moses was tending his father-in-law Jethro's sheep in the tender grass of the wilderness, down on the bottom of Sinai, where later on that he would climb up the mountain and get the 10 Commandments, but he had this staff, and this staff, he would use in multiple ways. And in Exodus chapter 14, the greatest time that I believe Moses used the staff was when he stood in front of the Red Sea and held it up, and the Red Sea parted, and